Hey everyone, I'm Malthus, and I wanted to talk to you today about Timberborn and why it's an awesome game, and give you a little bit of my thoughts on it, both good and bad. There are some bad things. And also, at the end, the latter half, we're going to cover some tips and tricks on how to improve your gameplay and make yourself a little bit more resilient to some of the negative things that happen in the game. So let's get started. First, we're going to need to look at the different tribes that you can pick from. So in Timberborn, currently in early access, we have 2 different tribes we can choose from. We can do the folk tales, which are like the nerdy, loving environment type people who want to live in equilibrium with nature while also expanding their own place in life. They have a lot of communal things. They do a lot of industry, but not as much as the other tribe. Iron Teeth are basically just the Borg. They don't reproduce through relationships like the folktales do. They instead are grown in vats, and I'll show you that later on. It's a mechanic that's a lot more complicated than the folktales, and if you mess it up, you're going to lose. So it's something we're going to have to talk about. It's one of my negatives. They do love using explosives, they love using heavy industry, and they don't give a darn about the environment. So you're going to have 2 different ones, and I highly recommend you start out with the folktales. Now, I will say that they do speak like minions, so if that bothers you, I'm so sorry. Just turn off the ambient noise, and that'll go away. So what you're going to do next, we're going to pick our people. You're going to get into the game. You're going to pick your map. Now, I'm going to go ahead and shrink myself down a little bit here. Back to streaming size. Okay, so in this game, there's a set number of maps. There is not workshop access on Steam. I want to see that input so that people can make their own custom maps and share them with their friends. I believe you can do that somehow right now. I have not been able to do it, and there is a way to create a custom map, but it is incredibly time consuming. Incredibly. You have to start from a flat surface that's all grass and just work from there. I don't have that kind of patience right now. Anyway, there's lots of different maps you can choose from. Some of them, all the ones with the leaves on them, those are going to be your starter maps. Do those first. I cannot stress that enough. Start on those. Or you could do diorama, because it's a tiny one and it also has everything you need in a small area. So once you choose that, you're going to get dropped onto the map, and we can go from there. You're going to choose your difficulties, and you can customize it. I find that you can pretty much just do normal. If you want something hard, you can do hard. The game's already pretty hard, though, at the beginning. And easy, if you just want to build some stuff, just do easy. It's not a big deal. The game has some serious load times, and the music is not great. I actually prefer to play this game with other game music on in the background, usually Light Your Frontier or Kenshi, and I just leave the effects volume and the ambience on. You're going to name your town, so we're going to name it Booperton. Okay. And this is what a map looks like. Okay? There's several different things you're going to do on it. The first thing you're going to do is get wood. You are a beaver. You need wood. Okay? There's lots of innuendos there, but really, you need the wood. You also need berries. That's going to be like your basic food. So, what you want to do is when you first get on a map, this is the tips part, is you're going to want to create just a super highway between those 2 resources. Okay? And you're going to connect it to your person, or your district center, and you're going to get things going rather quickly. You're on kind of a deadline at the beginning. You want to get up like a farmhouse relatively fast, and you want to research foresters, because the forester is going to let you plant more trees, and you're going to run out of trees fast. So, first gripe: trees. Trees grow very slow. They will grow back. As you can see, if we look at the trees over here, there's lots of different ones, right? These are dead pines, These are a mature pine that you can chop down for wood. These ones are mature and have resin, which means that you can get them for a different resource later. And then there's little tiny saplings and seedlings and stuff. These will eventually grow up even if you don't have a forester. It'll take like half an hour, real life. So if you, let's say, run down all these trees and then don't have the forester to replant them, you're going to be waiting like half an hour. And eventually these will run out also. So something to keep an eye on. You cannot subsist on berries alone. You have to get growers down really fast. Do that. It's right here in the little food. You're going to do efficient farmhouse, or you're going to do the teeth variant, which is just a less efficient farmhouse. And you're going to put that down. You're probably going to do carrots. Carrots are a good crop at the beginning. Eventually you're going to change those over to potatoes, and then eventually to wheat. So we're going to go ahead and switch over, and I'll show you what a medium-sized city looks like, and we'll go over some of the stuff I have in there that'll help you survive. Okay. So this is a medium-sized folktale town. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's a different map. I'm on a mountain. I have, this little river here, and then I have this big old reservoir. In this game, one of the main things that can happen to you is you run out of water. And if you run out of water, all your plants die, your dudes die. And so one of the coolest things you can do is try to find a way to make a reservoir. As you can see, these are called levee blocks. I've used just tons of levee blocks, and I've created this rather deep reservoir. And over here I have these buildings that are going to draw water from it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this as an infinite source of water. Okay? Luckily, we actually just had an event pop up that I can use to show you one of the things that can happen in the game. So I also used levee blocks to make my river that runs through my town a little bit deeper so that it lasts longer in case of a drought. There are two negative things you can have happen. You can have a drought, which makes it so a certain set amount of time water does not form on your map, and then you have bad tides where all water becomes bad water. Bad water is the result of contamination by the humans that are all dead now. So every map has water sources. As you can see, we go into the build mode. You can see these little water sources right here. These produce all the water for our map. All the fresh water, sorry. Whereas if you go, let's see, we got to find the water source for the bad water. Somewhere over here. Aha. They look slightly different. They're a little bit bigger. But you can block them off. They create basically a toxic sludge, that's the red water, that kills all plants and beavers that come into contact with it. The beavers don't die immediately. They get basically radiation poisoning and have to have some sort of treatment or they die. And they won't work, so it's a real pain. That's another thing. So one negative about this game is everything takes a lot of time. Building this took hours. And so what I would do is I gotta work. I'll just throw this on in the background, on my personal computer while I work, and they'll just run. You'll just set up a bunch of tasks and they'll just keep going. And really, once you get your town established with crop fields and extra wood for them to use, and in this case, chestnut trees that I can harvest for food, they're going to be fairly self-sufficient, especially if you have a reservoir like this that's even a third this size. You're not going to have to worry about droughts. You're not going to have to worry about bad tides. And that's one thing, that's what this is. As you can see, I've got a levee that goes around my water sources. So anytime there's a bad tide, what I can do is I can use these floodgates to raise it, and it'll cut water off the entire, no new water will flood into here. All the water from my water sources will go down this waterfall. That means that no bad water will get into my good water supply. And that's something you're going to have to figure out how to do in every single map you play. It's easier on some maps. This one was obviously pretty easy once I figured out how to do it. I'll show you one later that's a little bit more difficult and time consuming. But that's going to be one of your main things. So this is about to pop. I'll show you guys what it looks like while this goes. So this is my power. Hold on, I'm going to go ahead and put these up. So we got the good water going down. And since this is a reservoir, all this water is kind of just sitting here hanging out. And we'll be able to use it for later on. I've got my wind generators. They are powering gravity batteries. These, if the wind turns off, generally you'll lose all power to your base unless you have water wheels. I don't right now because I'm so high up off the ground. I'm using gravity batteries. The higher these are up, the more power they provide. So now, as you can see, all this water is bad water. So let's do a little experiment. I can open this up and it'll just start poisoning everything, as you can see. Basically, it takes your water, and anything above like a 50% bad water contamination level is poisonous to your beavers and is poisonous to all crops. So we just let it go, and it'll do just so much damage. A big part of this game is like doing what beavers do, which is redirecting water. And so, oh no, there's bad water in my reservoir. What do I do? Well, the first thing I'll do is I'll go here and I'll put up this to stop further bad water contamination. I'll go over here, I'll reduce this. That'll let all the existing bad water out of my little river, right? As you can see, it's draining it out. Because it's better to have no water than just bad water. And then we have our reservoir, which is now tainted. So we have floodgates here. I can't, because of how this is set up, I can't get rid of all the water in here. I can get rid of most, and it's going to take a while. So basically now what we're doing is triaging. So we can put this back up. We want it to be 1.5. This game works on a Z-level system, much like Dwarf Fortress or any voxel type building game. And so if we have this on 1.5, it'll go up to about here. And that's what we want. So as you can see, we're draining this all off, and as soon as this is over and fresh water starts coming in, we can start filling it back up. But until then, we have no new food. We have no new water. You have to rely on what you've stored. I happen to have stored quite a bit. So, this is just some stuff that can happen. Bad tides are honestly the hardest thing to deal with for a new player. And you're going to lose to them because they're just going to murder your people. In fact, I was streaming a couple of days ago, and I had a bad tide get me down to a population of like 10, starting off with like 70. So it happens. You just got to roll with it. So now I'll show you guys what a medium-sized colony for the Iron Teeth looks like. It's going to be a little bit different. Before we do that, as you can see, everything in this game kind of builds upon each other. There are certain things that have like, so as this, you can see on this one, the little yellow thing on there, it says ground only. That means it can only be planted on the ground. Can't be built on platforms like these. There's other things that are solid. Solid means that it can be built upon. So like this, I could build on a house on it. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. And I have better examples of this later on. So all of these are just stacked up, and you build platforms with intricate like lattice works of stairs and pathways and everything to get your people where they need to go. So, okay, let's move over to my my newest Iron Teeth colony. Okay, this is Borgton, my my Iron Teeth village. It's a medium-sized town in this game. It looks really big, but I'll explain to you why I think it's a medium-sized town. The one previously was fairly small. It had a small population. The population of this one is a little over 100. 89 actual beavers, 1 child, and 39 robots. So we'll talk about that in a second. When you're talking about folktale, the way they reproduce is if you have enough housing. So like, let's say we have 5 housing slots here. 2 adults will create babies as long as they have empty slots in their house. For the Iron Teeth, you instead have birthing pods, which is what these are, breeding pods. You feed them berries, you feed them waters, and they spit out children. Later on, you get these ones. These are advanced breeding pods. They spit out adults. You put this goo in here along with some berries, and eventually they spit out adult beavers. So, as you can see, I have a lot of like water turbines because they can't use wind power, but they can use steam engines. So I actually don't like the way these people do their power, but I gotta play it, right? I mean, it's robot beavers, you know? There's also other things that are different, like they use like advanced processing techniques to make basically industrialized food. And also, one of their main things is that they have robots. The other ones have robots, but they're not as good. So these guys create robots that don't need to sleep, and basically just need to recharge. And then there's also things you can do to make them better, like this thing. Any beaver robot within this area just is better, moves faster, works harder. It's like that Daft Punk song. So, what's funny is you can actually replace 90% of all the jobs with robots. So, like, as you can see, I have robots making the robot parts. I can just do this, and it changes from gel to Ironbot 8. And he'll just continuously work to make robot parts. And then I have 2 robots making robots. So, it's a little bit matrixy, but once you get your population changed over, like 90% of it, it's pretty hilarious. You also just have to have, like, you know, charging pods everywhere and stuff. And canola oil so they can oil themselves up. And this one's for my other dudes. This is just a giant cask of coffee that if any of them get thirsty, they can go in. They also believe in, like, exploiting labor. So these people literally just push a wheel around to produce electricity. Aside from that, some of the other notable things, so this is going to be a gravity battery, like we were doing over there. And then I'm also doing the same thing over here. The reason why I say this is a medium-sized colony, by the way, is because it only has 1 district. In this game, a district is denoted by anything that's used and connected to the roads of the district center. This thing right here. It's the thing you start out with when you made a new game. You can make new ones. I'm actually doing that over here. I'm about to start a second district. What you would do is you do this, you disconnect all the roads from the original one, and you'd migrate people over. What I want to use this for is just food production, basically, and oil. But I haven't gotten there yet. So we have 1 district, and it's not that bad. Some things I've done to improve my town. The Iron Teeth, instead of having very efficient water pumps, they have ones that go very deep. And so if you look at this water, this originally was this deep, right here. Or no, I'm sorry, this deep, 1 deep. I have bombed it out with dynamite like this to where it is like 5 deep, which means that even if a drought rolls through, I'm not going to run out of water. I mean, look at these things, they go all the way down, okay? Other safety features. I have upstream, I have this little, basically it's a floodgate with a dam, or levees with a floodgate, sorry. And so I bombed this out to be extra deep, and anytime I need extra water, when it's a drought, I can just drop this and it releases into my little area. In this one, to beat the bad tide, what I had to do was I have this up here for like a secondary farm, and it backs the water up, as you can see, all the way. I had to use levees and stuff to right here. So when bad water hits, because it has to spiral from this big mouth up here, it takes forever for it to hit. So I can actually get a little bit of free time by letting this water flow, and makes the bad tide have to walk all the way around the mountain. And then, before I would actually get hit with it, what I can do is I can shove this back up, which makes the water flow stop. And then I can come over here to this and make this max height, and all water will now flow out the side. So, yes, it causes a drought, but it prevents all bad water from getting into my reservoirs and any sort of radiation poisoning. So we're gonna do a little destruction so I can show you some other things I've done. If you look at my reservoir here, this is a very shallow one. It's only 1 deep, but you can see these air holes right here. And what I've done is I have taken dynamite and blasted the entire coastline 3 deep. Okay? And this will hold a tremendous amount of water. So even if this runs out of water through a drought, this will hold just a ton. And that will keep all of this land on both sides fertile so that it can produce all sorts of, food and everything for me even during a drought. Or in case of an emergency, I could, use it as a source of water to drink out of. One of the most complicated things in the game is the power system. So I have all of these power wheels. They're all connected using these just Rube Goldberg-like power connections. They're all just logs that spin in certain directions and gears turn and power stuff. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to consolidate all your power-using buildings in one spot, because when they touch each other, they share power. So as you can see, I kind of ran out of room here and I had to go over. And so I Rube Goldberged my way over with more and just created more lines and more. Over here, I needed more power, so I made 2 of these giant steam engines and then 2 large power wheels to use my indentured servants that I no longer need because I have robots that are better. And yeah, it's like one of the only jobs you can't give your robots because that would be crazy exploitative. So one of the other things, if you're playing Iron Teeth, make sure you get Forester just like you normally would, but instead of only focusing on trees with your Forester, put down a ton of blueberries, because you need blueberries to be able to create new beavers with your breeding pods. The folktails can use any kind of food to live off of, but the breeding pods can only take berries. So aside from that, you're going to want lots of berry storage in case you have a bad tide early on and it kills all of your berry bushes before you have a Forester. So just something like that. And then also don't discount the mood bonuses you get from having cool little like decorations. So if you ever have a place like I have right here where everyone kind of has to go, you can put all these like little things and it'll make them happier and work harder. Now, one of the hardest things to get your head around when you're starting this game is how many of these breeding pods to have. So it kind of depends on what you can afford to manage. So I have 10 regular ones and I have 6 of the advanced ones. You need 4 to maintain a population basically. So if you have 6, you're going to grow. If you're like me, you have 10. I got down to like 10 dudes because of a bad water poisoning, and had to rebuild. So I built like 10 of them. And now I've got a population that's fairly stable. It keeps going up. And I've also got the robots. So I'm slowly replacing my dudes with robots. You're also going to want to have, for this tribe, you're going to want to have a lot of storage for extract, which is made in this like giant scientific looking majigger centrifuge over here. This is something that you want to have always running because you're going to need it to both get rid of your contamination from bad water and you're going to need it to use your advanced breeding pods. So, yeah. Now, one thing I don't like about the Iron Teeth is that they don't have an efficient version of a water pump. They only have this water pump. So if we go in here, as you can see, they have lots of things in here, but only one of them gets water out. And so the folktail have 2. They have one that's this size, and then they have one that's twice as big that does 5 water a pull instead of just 1. And so you have to have just an enormous amount of these. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 running all the time just to keep my population stable. It kind of sucks because it takes a lot of manpower, or robot power, as it were. But yeah, aside from that, you're just going to want to you're going to want to try to build vertically as much as you can. And one of my best things, if you can, when you're laying down your power shafts and stuff, build 2 side by side. I'll show you this in my next one. Because your dudes can build vertically too high. So like they could build on this one right here. I'm sorry, they can build 1 high. They could build down an infinite number. But they can only build 1 high. So like they can't reach these. They can reach this one because he was up here. They built straight down. So they won't be able to build all of my power stuff down here, I'll have to build a second one, or what I'm doing here is just kind of going a little bit at a time. Make sure you're clicking on the walkway. They have to be a certain, they have to be fairly close to a walkway to build them. But what you can do is you can do that, and you can just kind of move out from there. It's very time consuming, but it saves you a lot of resources if you don't have a lot of planks and cogs and stuff like that. So this is what my medium-sized one looks like. It's going to have gravity batteries over here. I'm going to feed energy up through this walkway. What I basically like to do is build everything, and then I'll replace these stairs with step-down cogs over and over again until I can do this. Yeah. It's fairly simple. Focus on the well-being of your beavers if you can, because it's necessary and it keeps them happy. Oh, my little robot's out of energy. Look at him go. Oh, poor Ironbot 26. They still work when they're out of energy. They just go really slow. Okay, I'll show you my big one now, and we'll go over some of the cool things I've done over there to increase my efficiency. Welcome to Newtown. Population 320 and 2 infected. This is by far my most advanced city. It is on the Beaverdom map, which is a series of lakes. Yeah, I'll show you some of the stuff I've done. First of all, this is a lake. I just built platforms over the whole thing because you can't farm on it, so you might as well build all your buildings on it. This took an ungodly amount of time. One of the most profound negatives of this game is that it takes forever to do anything unless you have just all the manpower, which I'll show you how I did it in a second. And also, it only runs if you're clicked on it. So here, I'll show you. So it's running right now. Runs fine, right? I'm gonna click the other screen, and look, it stopped. Now, it's not paused, it just won't run unless you're clicked on it. So that means if you need to, like, say, change a video, stop a video to go to the bathroom or something, it's going to automatically basically pause this without it actually being paused. That's a huge issue for me. I wish that they would just let it run so that I could do something else in the other one while they're building their stuff. Most of this was just I built a pre-designed everything and let it run while I was working, you know. So anyway, this one, my power is diverse. It's mostly wind. I have, as you can see, I've got this at the highest point. I have a large series of wind towers. I also have, here. I also built like a large series of random, like, walkways. This is what I was talking about, where you have 2 wide so that they can build as they go. And what you do is you just put a gap in between, and they can't be built next to each other. They have to have 2 spaces in each direction. And so you just build like this, and you chain them all together. I have these daisy chained all across the map, so all of my power feeds all of it. The one I'm working on right now is this series of water wheels. So this will just feed more stuff. Daisy chaining like this takes forever. Let's see, what am I doing? Yeah, as you can see, all this stuff is yet to be built. So I'm building 2 walkways side by side, one with a walk, one with power. So like as they go, they will make a wind tower, finish off these power shafts, and then I can put a connecting one in the middle. And then that'll connect all of it once it's done. That'll provide me with a ton more power, and also, you know, I won't have to worry about it because it'll just be an excessive amount. When it comes to gravity batteries, because I'm so reliant on wind power, if the wind stops, these things start dropping. The higher they are, the longer they last. They basically, if you're not familiar with a gravity battery, it is a heavy object that starts out on the ground, and as you have excess power, you use the excess power to use a pulley system to pull it slowly up, and then when the power stops, it slowly drops back down and generates power through a turbine. So, in this game, the higher they are, the more energy they create. It's a pretty easy system. So as you can see, I just built an incredibly tall tower, kind of like what I was doing in Borkton, but instead just way taller and way more, and they're connected with all sorts of stuff. So yeah, technically also, windmills are supposed to do more the higher up you put them, but I'm going to go ahead and pause this real quick just to show you. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 above water, or really 12.5 because these are each 3 high. It's creating 154. These ones are slightly lower, creating 154. These ones are going to be even lower. Actually, these ones are water level, creating 154. So just because it says it needs to be higher, it doesn't. Water level's fine. These do last longer the higher up you put them. I'll show you an example. Oh shit, I flooded some stuff. Hold on. I can fix that. We're gonna have to let it drain. It'll be fine. Probably happened while I wasn't paying attention. So I built this reservoir, right? This was a lake. I drained the whole thing. I swear. It wasn't like this when I left. I drained the whole thing. I built a settlement in the bottom of it because it was flat. I used bombs to make it even flatter. And then I built this reservoir so that I could make most of it green. And I've been farming down here. I've been using it as a place to get metal because there's a mine down here. And everything's going fine. And what I did is I created this tiny reservoir right here with this pump. And what the pump does is it spits clean or dirty water out, depending on what I need to do. Right now it's spitting clean water out to fill up the secondary one so that I can grow trees right here, which is just something I always needed more of because I was building a lot of stuff out of wood. Now I've got, let's say that I have a bad water infection in here. I can set this, all these pumps can be set to either fresh or unfiltered or bad water, and you can pump out just bad water. And as you can see, it'll take this and it'll slowly remove the contamination and put it over here. It's really useful, but it takes a ton of energy. As you can see, it takes 700 horsepower just to run this one pump. And the way I run it is by these 3. This is independent. It's got 3 windmills and a gravity battery, which now that this is off, is slowly going back up, as you can see. And so the higher up it is, the longer it'll last. And that's just how it is. We're going to go ahead and scoot across these dudes. Try to get rid of some of that water. Shouldn't take long. I went ahead and bombed this all the way down to the bedrock level, which is like the lowest one. So all water should flow into it. So eventually it'll be fine. We can talk about, as you can see, so okay, if my main power generation is all on this side of the map, I built this long power train all the way over here that uses all these step down gears to go very slowly down, like a set of steps. Powers this entire industry area. You always need to have bad water. Use bad water to make explosives and some other stuff. So what I've got here is I've got one lake on the map that's still bad water, and I just let it be, and I use it to pump bad water out into this giant silo over here, and the giant silo is then used to make explosives. Because this is all water, I can farm literally in a circle around it, and it's amazing. And what I did to get this finished faster, I have 6 districts. This is my main one, obviously. And then I have this one, which is like on top of a mountain. I have this one down here. I have this one over here that just produces wood and wood products for me. And then I had some more. I have this one over here. What I did is I built paths onto this that never intersected, so they were all technically different districts. And they would build independently of other districts. So it's one way to do it. That's why I have roads going everywhere over here. So like these guys, I had them building over here. I had the mountain district building this area, and it lets you use resources from lots of different districts to accomplish large tasks. What else am I doing here? I'm slowly building up this like giant acropolis here to basically be just one giant beaver utopia. One cool thing I did is I filled this entire area with dirt. Originally I was going to farm here, but I don't really need the food. And so instead what I did is I used it to make these giant storages that you can only put on ground, and also an agora, which you can only put on ground. And it took forever. But as you can see, what I'm doing here is this was all gone, or this was not here originally, and I'm filling it in so that I can put like aquatic plants here that have to be at least 1 deep. And that'll be a nice little diversity for my food. When I first started this, and I made a short about this, this one was bad water, this one was good water. Depends on the type of source, which is what we had just talked about. So if we go into build mode, we can see this one has good water in here. And the problem is that this one is inherently lower by a Z level than the other one. So I had to build levees across the entire thing to make it higher, so that then I could reverse the flow and send the good water on this side over to this side and overpower the bad water, which is down here. While I did that, I also capped these off. So like this is what it looks like when you cap them off. So like I can open and close this to let out bad water as I need it, if I didn't have the way of getting the other one. Or in this case, I could drain out all the water and use this as a way to get a controlled source of bad water without having to use pumps. So just some things you can do. Also, when it comes to, as you can see, I'm using this over here. It's connected, and it's not using a bunch because it doesn't need to. There's not a lot of bad water in here. I have several bad water pumps just on, and that's to remove all contamination. As you can see, it's removing a little bit, but there's not much in this water, so it's just kind of stall. This one is something I use to be able to farm this entire area. It's like 6 deep, I think. Yeah, like 5 deep or something like that. And this pump will continuously pump water into it until it gets up to the top of the highest Z level, and then it won't go it won't spill over or anything. So that's kind of nice. And it'll just create like basically an infinite green in this area. Aside from that, I also did the same trick where I burrowed into the ground on the sides here so that I could store water. And then I built these contamination barriers so that even if bad water gets in here, which it will, through bad tides, it will not infect the land past it. So, kind of a pain in the butt, but it was cool, and it works. This is another one that's powered by these windmills. It doesn't have a gravity battery, but it slowly removes the bad water from inside this reservoir. One of my biggest accomplishments on this is subverting a bad tide in this lake. So this lake is bad. It's got a ton of these, which poisons the water very fast. And basically all you can do is separate it. So I built a levee across the entire thing. And when I took the levee, I made a pump going in, only clean water, and a pump going out, only dirty water. And also a floodgate. So let's say we know all this water's clean because we can click on this and it says zero contamination, but one of them is very low. If I want to equal them out, all I got to do is do this and water flows in and out like normal. So those are kind of just some of the tips and tricks that I've learned to control the game and make it a little bit more viable to have big old groups like this. So I welcome you to share your comments and your ideas with me. I'd love to hear them. If you've got, like, if you see something I'm doing that's like, oh, you could simplify that by doing blank, let me know. I'd love it. I love this game, but it's definitely got some issues, such as it has to run in the background. It's like Dwarf Fortress. You have to just let it run. And they've made it hard to do that by not letting it run without being on the screen. So overall, I'd give this game an 8 out of 10, and it's still in early access. So if you like builders or, you know, stuff that's a little off the beaten path, Timberborn's where it's at for you. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you would, like and subscribe so that I know that this is a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.